Hello friends and welcome to another episode of the Urban Homesteading channel, remote site edition. If this is the first time you're visiting with us, we want to extend to you a very warm welcome. If you are returning, welcome back. If today is your birthday, we want to wish you a very happy birthday. Today we're at Elpida's apartment because we're going to start a project that relates to a need she has, and we want to take you along and show you how you can try to duplicate a piece of furniture or something like that. When we were in a second-hand store, where we were?
Thrift store.
We found a chair that really matches Elpida's bedroom set, which is a very unique bedroom set. It's a very, very nice set. But she had never seen a chair before, and she would like to have it without having to pay a second rent for the chair, right?
It was pretty high priced.
For a second-hand store, yeah.
So we are going to make an attempt to replicate that chair. Now here, that chair matches her headboard, which has a very unique style, and we are going to attempt to recreate it today. And we might only get to that point. We're going to see if we can finish the whole chair, we will. But because we have to experiment to make it look the same, we want to show you today at a minimum how to go by that process, right? How to copy something that you have that is unique, and it is not just straight cuts, right? Because this is a very elaborate, it's not just straight cuts. So
Right.
we are going to go to Elpida's bedroom. Ooh la la, right? No, don't let your mind go there. So here we are in her bedroom, and here is the headboard, which is in two pieces, and essentially the chair will be one of the dimensions of one of the pieces, right? Make sense?
Yep.
So we have to duplicate one of these sides. And we're going to show you how we do that. We're going to start by finding a piece of cardboard that it is wide enough. This is the width of the piece, right?
Yep.
So we need something that is either exactly this or a little wider than this piece. And we are going to use that and make templates, and we're going to show you this process as we do it. But as you can see, this has a nice curve. You see it starts thick and then it thins, but the back part is straight. So we think that will not be very hard for us to duplicate, but again, we've never done it before, so
Right. It is a complicated plan.
it is. So we're going to make what do you call it, a test piece or we're going to make a test piece using what would we have, what material we have. So we put the piece of cardboard flush with the rear, and we're going to show you that in a moment. It's a little hard to actually record this, but and what we're capturing now is the edge, right? Mm-hmm. And if you see, we just make this flush to the rear, and we captured the profile that we need, right?
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to cut this to the line here, and that will be our template. The other piece that is a little challenging is what in essence will be what's holding the back to the chair, or what's holding the back here of the headboard to the bed, and that is a side piece that is also a little bit of curve, and we're going to have a hard time showing you that, but we're going to use the same process and use a template. We're going to show you the template when we do it, but I don't think there's a way for us to film that, right?
Right.
So we're going to make another template, and that will be our side. And so here is the outline of our second template. It's also fairly complex, and that is the pieces, the two pieces that will hold the back of the chair, to the base of the chair, right? Mm-hmm. And we have a notch here, so this is the profile, but that tells us where we need to notch it. And we wrote here the dimensions, that it is 2 inches wide by an inch and a half deep. So we're going to follow this 1.5 inches back when we make the final template. But this is all we need right now to have this duplicated. So with our templates made and our dimensions written down, our next stop will be the lumber store, so we can purchase the required lumber and then back to our shop to start working on this project. Again, today my goal is to make the back first draft, what do we call it? The first, I don't know, I cannot
Iteration, template.
Well, it's not a template, it will be the back part, but that's all we
Okay.
try to do is make the back, right? And if we do it faster than I think it will do it, then we'll try to finish the whole chair. Otherwise, we'll just finish the back. And this will be a 2-part video. So we're going to take you to the store with us and then back to the shop. I can't believe I did. I mean, I didn't fully do it, so I will let it anyway. Right, babe?
Well, then I guess we're just buying the lumber for the mat.
So with our wood purchased, we are ready to head back to the shop and start cutting and doing things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what we do, cut and do things?
Cut and do things, yes.
Right. So we do not have a truck, and our SUVs so far have been used as the transport, but today we're going to also pick up our trailer.
It's a Madeline present.
So we're going to be able to transfer things a little more, what is the right term, easy? I don't know. So what we're doing now is cutting the templates to the exact dimension we need. And Alpida is using expertly an X-Acto knife. She has been specifically trained to do this.
That's absolutely true.
In a government-sponsored facility, no less, right?
Training.
And we're going to do that, ensuring that we have the template as accurate as we possibly can make it. Again, here consistency is more important. In other words, if we're a little off, it is more important that all the pieces are the same dimension than the exact dimension, right?
Yeah,
No one will know the difference between an eighth off.
right. Now it's like drying up all the way through.
Now this is nothing special. We used cardboard from the box, right?
Yep.
It's not something. You can even use maybe brown paper, like.
Yeah, get brown paper, like a brown paper bag or something. Going all the way through. I'm afraid to cut your workbench, I guess. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Okay.
Make scissors. Scissors would be better.
Scissors would not be better.
This is riveting cinematography, guys.
It's, time well spent to make sure you have something that's going to guide the final product.
Well, it has to be done. It's not the most exciting aspect of the project, but it is an important aspect. So as we always do, because we're going to have to make 7 cuts that are identical in length, we set a stop so we can repeat the cut over and over. In our case, that's 27 inches. It will vary from project to project, right? Mm-hmm. That's why we have that in a way that we can always remove it. We made a very simple jig to allow us to do that. And we're using this saw today to make our 7 cuts. Okay, with our stop set, we're ready to start cutting, and we need 7 pieces at 27 inches, right?
Yep.
For the blade, yeah. And always wait for the blade to stop. Otherwise, you can have a kickback. We're not going to show you all 7 cuts, but this is a repetitive process, as you see. Ready? Oh, we're not plugged in.
We are.
Oh, we are?
But we also we'll need the vacuum on too.
Okay, I'm not used to this saw yet, so. Oh. So we remove the bevel of all our pieces, and now
one side.
on one side of the pieces, and now we are going to cut them to the correct width. We're going to rip them to the correct width, which in our case is 2.5, because that's the widest part of our board, right? Now, when you're using dimensional lumber, I don't know if it is visible here, always has a little bevel.
Yep, it's
So-
like rounded on the corners.
So you want to remove that, right? I mean, it
Right.
doesn't make a difference when you're framing, but when you're building something, you want to remove it. So we started by removing it on this side, and on the other side, we don't need to do that because it needs to be ripped
Right.
to a correct dimension. So we're going to rip them all again in the correct dimension, and then we're going to show you the next step. So we're finished cutting all our pieces, and here's our template. And the next step is we're going to mark all our pieces so we can go to the bandsaw and cut them. That next part also will be long and repetitive, right? But we are going to do that, and we're going to.
But you can see that we've done a good job with fitting the correct size for this.
Yeah, it's about the contour.
All right. So let's start marking.
This is not
Again,
quite
this
right, so-
project is full of repetition, right? We are going to have to do this marking about 7 times, and this is something that really, to do it correctly, you need 2 people. Don't you think, ladies?
Yeah, or some way to hold this in place, clamp,
Clamp it.
glue,
Right.
yeah, something.
Now, if that was a production shop, if we decide to make these chairs and sell them, you're going to use MDF to make the template so it will last much longer, right? Because the template will start degrading from cardboard the more we use it. But
Yeah.
for 7 pieces, it will be fine. That we cannot do it for all of them. We're not going to show you all 7 pieces. So when we're done, we're going to move to the bandsaw and start cutting. So as you know, here in urban homesteading, everything is state of the art. And here is a lighting solution. Since we're going to be cutting a curve, we want to be able to see very clearly what we're doing, right? So we have this little
Jerry rig.
jerry rig light, which shows the versatility of those lights that we bought for $1 at the dollar store, right?
Yeah, because the neck is bendable and you can pose it to where you need
And
it,
at a
so-
dollar, you don't care if it gets dirty
Right.
or
Right.
even broken, but they last a long time.
So we're going to show you the first one happening, but again, there are going to be 7 of them. We're not going to show you all 7, right? So now we're going to start, and this is I would say, the more critical part of the operation,
Yeah.
because this is where we can really mess things up, but we have a couple of extra boards if we need to. All right.
Ready?
Yep.
Isn't this fun? And you can see the shape now if you remember from when we were in Elpida's apartment. That was what we're looking at top, right? So I think we're going to be able to do this. What do you think, Elpida?
It, really well.
It takes time. I mean, this is a fairly slow process. And we're going to do the other 7 off camera because
Other 6.
other 6 because you will be bored to tears. But we're going to get back with you when we're done with it. Because we think it's very important to show you when things do not go very well, as we do when things go very well. I want to show you one of our pieces, and we're not really sure why. We didn't do anything different, but one of our pieces is not matching very well. The other pieces are fine. Mind you, we're going to have to sand them, right? But this clearly is quite different, right?
And we did try flipping it around to see if the profile was just a little
Right.
bit different,
But it doesn't. It gets a little better, but it does not really match the other pieces as well. And that's why we always say have at least 20-30% extra material, because we're going to have to replace that. We cannot use it the way it is. So we're going to make another one. And the only different thing we're going to do, instead of using the template, we are going to use one of our already cut pieces to mark the new piece to ensure that we are correct, because clearly here we're off a little bit, right?
Yeah. It's more pronounced on this end when you see the curvature.
Yeah. So the process is the same.
The
So
other curves kind of lined up, but this one came back really far.
Yep.
the process is the same. So we're not going to show it to you. We're going to just have to rip it in the correct dimension. You already cut it to the correct width. We're going to rip it, and then we're going to do the bandsaw, and that will be our last piece. So we're preparing the area for the glue up right now. We're putting some wax paper. Even though my bench doesn't need protecting, we don't want to attract anything that we don't want to on the finished pieces, right?
Right.
So we're going to protect the area and make sure that no glue will stick anywhere. And then we're going to start the glue up, and then we're going to wait for glue to dry. How exciting is that? Wax paper is one of the best and easiest and cheapest ways to protect your surfaces and ensure that they don't glue to each other. So we're starting the glue up, and again, we're going to use high-tech technology here, and that will be our fingers to spread the glue to a nice, even layer, right? You can also use here a, what do you call those things that you do drywall taping with?
A spatula?
Spatula, yeah. But the finger is probably the best because it does the easiest way. It does the easiest way. Me, that's... So we finished just gluing up the pieces. And again, as we were showing you, we're using our fingers to spread it nice and thin. When you laminate, you don't want to do the normal zigzag process, right? Because you want an equal amount of glue anywhere, so you have a good lamination. And we wanted to show you an alternative. Not everyone has a bandsaw. I realize that's not a very common tool. We happen to find one in a very good price used, and that's why we have it. But if you don't have a bandsaw, doing this can be rather difficult, right?
Making that curve.
Now there is another tool that you can use. It is much less elegant, but this attaches to your grinder, right, the angle grinder, and it just takes away. I think that will be harder. I don't know.
Less
Yeah,
precise.
and it's a very aggressive tool, so you have to watch what you're doing with it, right?
And then I'm sure you will have much more sanding than we will end up with.
Yeah.
Even though we're going to have a fair amount of sanding, this is going to be a little bit of sanding. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that this is also an option, right? If you have a grinder, you can use a disc like this to hog material out. In that case, of course, the material is wasted. We're trying to find something to do with the nice semi-circles that we cut out of this piece. So now we're going to wait for glue to dry, literally, right?
Yep.
And once that happens, we're going to start the other lengthy process of sanding. Time has passed, so we are here, ready to unclap the piece and start sanding it. And we're going to start the sanding with the Gellas sander, which is a very powerful corded sander. And we're going to start with a rather coarse paper, which will be 60 grit. So we start by removing the clamps. And as you can see, we have a nice profile here, and the little fuzz is here. We're going to take care of fine sanding. We don't need to take a lot of material off, right?
Right. This is the heavy sanding will just be to get the profile so that
Right.
it's all smooth, and then we'll use fine to get all the little fuzzy things.
And because this ultimately is a furniture, when we like the shape and it's even, we are going to use maybe 2 more sanding rounds with finer and finer paper. Maybe, I think 120 will be plenty, you know.
Okay.
Did you put the paper? Okay.
Paper.
So we start with sanding. So here we are. It really has started evening out very nicely, and we see very nice grain in the wood, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it will take some sanding again. This will be a little bit of a lengthy process, but we're going to do a lot of it using 60 grit, and then we're going to move probably to 120, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because now what we do is evening everything out. We're not looking for the finished
Right.
part. We're just making everything even.
Mhm.
But so far, it is going very well. No, as you can see, we can do it a little more. Especially in the middle where I started, that looks brand new. Most of the times, the reason why your sandpaper will stop working is because it is gummed up, not because it is worn out, right? In fact, if you touch it here at PwC, it's very,
Oh
very
yeah,
coarse.
I could see it. It's still very coarse.
So using an eraser, this is a sandpaper eraser. It's only cost a couple of dollars. And if you don't have that and you have an old pair of running shoes, tennis shoes, you can use that. But if it is black, it might change the surface color. We're going to do it a little more because I see a little more of the ganking up, right? Okay. Cool. And that is a nice tip. Invest a couple of dollars in a sandpaper eraser, and you're going to make your sandpaper last at least twice as long.
Okay. So on the back side, we did have some squeeze out of the glue, and since it's dry, we're just taking that little plastic scraper, scraping along those seams to get some of it off before I start sanding on the back side. And this is mostly flat. We just want to give it a little bit of a sand again to get this off and even things up a little
Yeah, make it a little bit more cohesive.
bit. And then once we get all this done, of course, we'll go to the finer sandpaper.
Looking good?
Yeah. So we started with the 60, we went to a 180, and now we finished up with a 220 grit sandpaper. And we've got this down to where it's really smooth. You can see how nice I'm just sliding across this. You can also see how nicely the grain has popped out. And so we've got just a little bit of trim work on either end of this backboard, headboard, whatever you want to call it, just to get this nice and straight on either end. And then I'll come back with the sandpaper again and just sand down the sides and then do a slight round over on this just to mimic what I have already. And then after that we can move on to the next step. But I think this piece came together about as well as we could have imagined.
Yeah, it really did. Really did.
So very happy so far with the outcome. This profile is really, really nice, and I think it is a perfect match.
Matches very, very well.
Yeah. This is nice and even now. It's got a little bit of cleanup here with the sander, but again, we're going to be rounding these edges anyway. The other side also nice and flush. So this has turned out really well.
Really nice. Now it's all even.
And here we are after the piece has been sanded, fine sanded. Took it down to a, what is this? 400 grit. And you can see our proof of concept has come out really nicely. Really nice profile, just what we were going for. And I did take that, I think a 180, and just kind of round over these edges to soften them. They're still fairly crisp, but they're smooth and turned a little bit instead of really sharp. And that just softens the piece. And that mimics the other pieces that I have, how their edges are as well. And you can see that you still got that little lip here, and then it does the dip. The grain on this piece also, in spite of being just dimensional lumber, actually came out very nicely. And once it's stained up, it'll be even better.
One of the things that we made a mistake, we mentioned it when we were planning the project. We talked about it amongst ourselves, but then we totally forgot to do it. And that was, since we have the joiner, we wanted to join the pieces, and we didn't.
Right.
So what you're seeing here is rough wood. Imagine if we had
Right.
joined it, right?
In between, so
it would have been perfect.
that's where you're seeing a little bit of the seam. And had we joined them, you wouldn't see those at all.
Because on the project we did last week, it is perfect, right?
Right.
And this was totally our mistake. Again, if we were doing that for a client, we would scrap the project and do it again, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it is for us, and I think it will not be visible.
I don't think so either. I'm still
we're
very pleased with the outcome.
We're going to keep it, but just imagine, Elpida, how it will be had we remember. Because again, the plan stage to say we're going to join this, right?
Right, we did.
We talked about it and then we didn't do it. It's okay. And again, the material, because we were thinking this would be just a test piece, we would have fixed it on the final piece, right?
Right, right.
But its character, and to me, the dimensional lumber, guys, look at the character that this is. I mean, if we're not trying to match your furniture, I would have used a stain that accentuates this character, because I just love it. And the dark stain will take some of it away, you know?
It will a little bit, but I think we're still going to see some of the green.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But anyway, so we made a couple of mistakes. We think, as we said, we moved the template
A little bit on one piece.
in one piece, and we had to make another one.
And the way that happened was that when I went to cut the piece on the bandsaw, I noticed there was a knot that was going to be in a bad spot. So we said, let's flip the board and retrace it. And when we did that, somehow it didn't come out
Because we
correctly.
were out of sequence. We've done all the others
Right.
together, and I think that's part of it, right?
Right.
We were out of sequence, and again, it was not a critical mistake. We could have made it work even if we didn't have extra wood. But we had extra wood, so it was not a big deal to cut another piece. And,
Right. And just make the profile right.
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 But still, overall, with the mistakes we made, this being our first attempt, I cannot wait to actually stain it. I'm just,
Right. Right.
it's like I wish we had more time.
And to see the rest of the project come together.
Right,
too.
I mean,
I think
just-
it's going to just be great.
I think so. I'm looking forward to it. All right, friends, and here we are. We were successful in making this, and this is a good suggestion. If you tackle a project like this, I would recommend to break it in two parts, right? Take either the base and do it first, and we started with the back because this is something we've never attempted before, right? But we're extremely pleased.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, we did that with dimensional lumber. I mean, this is not, we didn't use really expensive wood, and the finish is just marvelous. I mean,
Well, we really wanted to show proof of concept. We wanted to know if we could do it. And then the end product has really turned out.
it's not the proof of concept. This is
This
it,
is
you
what
know?
we're going to use.
Right. So, and when we stain it, I mean, we cannot wait to show you guys. I think it will be amazing.
Yeah.
And then Elpida is going to make a cushion, right?
Yep.
Don't know how long that will take, but
I don't know either. But because this is an Oriental style furniture, the cushion that I plan to make is also going to be in an Oriental style needlework.
I want to show, if you remember from when we're in Elpida's apartment, the profile is perfect. I mean, this is exactly what we were looking for, right?
Yeah.
And this is all smooth. I mean, look at the back. I mean, everything is,
You can see the shine on it, how smooth it turned out.
and granted, our sander is a super duper
Yeah.
sander. And if you don't have something like that, it will take you longer than it took us. And I would say for the average sander, the average user, plan maybe an hour of sanding. I don't know how long it took you.
Yeah, give or take. But then I did finish hand sanding. I didn't
Right.
use the machine because it's a pretty powerful machine and I wanted to have the feel of it as I was finishing it.
But I mean, if you want to see, look for a dimensional lumber, you cannot tell me this is not great quality. I'm sorry, it's just.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, you could use a slab of wood. You could have paid $300.
We looked at some slabs just trying to see what we wanted to do, but decided to start with this.
Well, we decided to start with it because we saw how expensive slabs were.
Yes.
And if we were to mess it up,
Right.
we didn't
right.
want to get a couple of $100 of wood and.
Then just have sawdust.
Right. But no, and really, Elpida did a great job with the bandsaw. Anything you want to tell people that they might use the bandsaw to do something like this?
You know, just the fact that we cut out that profile and traced it on there, and then, you know, use that profile to cut it. Take your time, go slow, follow the line, and it came out nice. We only had the one, and I think it's just that the template moved when we retraced it.
Right. And if you remember, we had one that we decided not to use
Right, and
because
so we
it
had
just didn't match.
yeah.
Now, if you don't have a bandsaw and you decide to use something like this, you will do the same thing, but you will still have to mark the pieces.
Right.
You
and
know,
that's going to
because-
be a little more challenging, making sure that you're getting that same profile.
Yeah, but
that
you
want.
do this business, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
in that instance, you can actually laminate it first, and then for the bandsaw, our bandsaw is not very powerful,
Right.
so we cut it first.
Well,
but
and there's no way we could have cut a 10.5 piece.
right,
'cause
we
it
don't
wouldn't
have the
fit there.
capacity. Yeah, we could have done two, but it was already kind of struggling sometimes
Right.
when we were hitting. As you can see, we had some.
There's some knots in there, and so it takes a little bit longer to get through the knots, but it's still.
And
got
you could
through
feel it in the bandsaw.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
could feel it going through. But the end result, and again, you can see the laminations right now, but always in white wood, they are going to be visible, right? And even though this is white wood, there are areas like here. Look at this. I mean, you can barely see the lamination. And look at the connection here. I mean, come on, guys. I mean, you know,
That's really.
this is very, very good. And with a dark stain, and this will be stained very dark, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you will be able to see it. We're very pleased with the way it turned out. Anything else you want to talk about, Lupita, to our viewers? And this for us was not something we'd never have tried before. And that's like try it, right? But just
Right.
try it. Don't go and buy don't go and buy mahogany to try this.
Right.
Try it with wood that, I mean, if we mess this up, we were out $20.
Right.
You know. And even if we messed it up, we would have learned from the experience.
Absolutely.
But again, as Peter said, we started with the process. This will be just a mock-up, if you wish, you know. And then we'll use better wood, and we like it enough that this is going to be part of the project.
Right. Right.
We're not going to make another with more expensive wood.
Right. Don't need to.
Right. But if you were making for a customer, you might want to do that.
If they want to, yeah.
But if someone wanted to do it inexpensively, again, this is $20 worth of wood. You just cannot beat it.
Right. And the next, for the base and the arms that go to the back, probably another $30 or so, maybe.
If so, because remember, they're small pieces.
yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
I mean,
It kind of depends on what size we end up going with.
Right.
But yeah,
And-
$20
and-
to $30 maybe.
and in our case, we're copying something. If we were making it from scratch, you can minimize the cost of material because you can decide the
Right.
dimensions, right? In our case, this had to match your headboard, and then this dictates the rest of the size of the chair.
Right. The size of the chair.
So in our case, we cannot do anything better because we're copying something, right? But when you start from scratch, that's the other advantage on DIY,
Right. If you're designing it, you can make it your own dimensions.
and you
custom.
can design it for economy of material. And we have done that in the past,
Yeah.
as you know, right? But even with waste, I mean, we wasted some material. We end up using 2 boards, and if we didn't make a mistake, it will be 2 boards and one 27-inch piece because, I mean, yeah, two and 1/3 boards.
Right. Right.
So, yes, I mean, I don't think we have a lot of waste.
No. And even the little pieces that are cut off can still be used for another project.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. We never throw anything away, which is not necessarily a good thing. Anyway, we hope you enjoyed. Elpida, was that an enjoyable project for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just love that it came together in our vision exactly as we had hoped.
I can tell you, even though Elpida did all the sanding, there was something satisfying seeing it shaping. I mean, even because when you see it when you're done, it looks very rough, and you know, I knew at that point that it was a success.
Right, it was going to come together correctly. It's just finishing it out and making it look.
But did you feel the same way? Because as you were doing it, it was very satisfying to
Oh,
see
yeah.
see it happening. So yeah, very, very pleased. If you enjoyed the project like this, please give us a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. Also, it helps the channel if you comment and like the video. The algorithm really likes that, right? If you didn't like it, press the other button twice. Share, like, and subscribe. And if you want to support our channel, buy us a coffee. The link is below in the description. From Dr. Wizard, Mrs. Wizard, Elpida, and Always the Urban Homesteading channel, stay safe, stay 6 feet apart, put your masks on, and get vaccinated, so we will continue seeing you in future episodes. Stay safe, friends.